Good everyone, today's video, and today it's a review on the Strv M31. This is one of the two reserve tanks that you get access to when you start playing Swedish tanks. And I'm going to say straight off the bat, this is the better one. Now, I've obviously got my own opinion. You may say that the M38 is better. I personally say this thing is better, and there's a couple of reasons for that. But first of all, we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty about its gun, its armor-piercing rounds and stuff like that, its armor and everything. It has really good armor, I've got to say that. The armor is really troll. Now, at the moment, there is Sweden v Sweden in ground forces, so the only two threats, realistically, unless someone's been screaming up the lines with GE, which has been the case in a couple of situations, the only real things you're going to fight are the M31 and the M38, which you can comfortably deal with. But of course, I'm going to be showing the weak spots of this vehicle, just to give you guys that little bit of an advantage over your opponent. So, the M31 is the better reserve, and that's just my opinion. We're going to go starting off with the gun first of all. You start out with the, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that, M38 armor-piercing ballistic cap shell. This shell is the definition of shit. It has barely any shrapnel, it really requires shot placement, and you pretty much have to hit the gunner square in the face in order to score a kill on the gunner. This can be quite temperamental, and I had that in my first game. It only took me 2 games to spade this tank, and it was annoying in the first game when I had this round, that's for definite. But this is the round that you're going to want to research right off the bat with your reserves. Obviously, the other tanks will not get access to this, so it will probably be a bit more of a painful stock grind. But this has a armor-piercing ballistic cap again, but this one has a little bit of explosive, which makes that all the more different. 15 grams of TNT equivalent, 55mm of penetration should be more than enough to deal with pretty much anything that you see, apart from a B1. But of course, you go for the turret ring with that. But to be honest, that isn't why I'm suggesting this tank is the better one. The gun is exactly the same as the M38. So why am I suggesting this one's the better one? Let's look at the armor. So you've got 24mm of armor just down here on the lower glacis. So you've got 14 protecting the upper frontal plate. You've got 24 protecting the machine gun port. You've got several plates of 24mm protecting the gun, the machine gun, and everything. There's a lot of obtuse angles and there's a lot of overlapping plates, which means that you're going to have to be quite accurate with your shooting. Now, the weirdest thing is that the gunner appears to be on the left-hand side, and yet I don't see any optics for him. Oh, wait, no, there it is. It's just under the coax. That'd be very temperamental to get at, or is that just me? But, yeah, the gunner sits on the right-hand side of the vehicle, same as the driver, so I believe that's the same for German tanks. So if you are shooting this thing from the front, aim for the driver's port, which actually has quite a bit of obtuse angles, or if not, aim for this flat slit here. This way you should be able to at least get the gunner, maybe even the loader, and possibly the driver with the APHE round. The turret is pretty strong. It doesn't turn very well. I mean, 11.2 degrees a second will tell you. But otherwise, this thing's got some really funny quirks, and we're going to start at the rear of the vehicle for this quirk. There's a single 20mm plate here, and I know what you're thinking. Hold on a minute. Don't tell me you're going to suggest what I think you're going to suggest. And yes, I'm going to suggest to drive this thing backwards. Now, there is an issue with driving it backwards, and that the turret has to rotate over the engine deck, which obviously has limited gun depression, but you can get away with it with angling it like this. However, high caliber armor piercing rounds will still penetrate your side armor, which is about 24mm. And at that sort of angle, it's about 48, so there is a chance of you being penetrated there. But what Gaijin hasn't particularly showed us is that there's an additional 20mm plate somewhere in here. And obviously you also have the engine to soak up some shrapnel, and you also have the transmission, as well as the fuel, and even the radiator at some points. This tank is really good in reverse as well. With a top speed of 11.7 in reverse and 26 in forward gears, this thing's actually quite mobile, and obviously you get the engine modifications done as standard. Now, the steering on this vehicle is a bit poor, but other than that, it's just really more down to being careful with it. In my first game, I got exactly 1 ground kill and 2 air kills. Now, the battle I'm going to show you is not the full battle. I'm going to show you until I die in the M31, but I was getting caught off guard because obviously I was new to the tank. I wanted to see if I could flank, and obviously the guy knew where I was because he must have had high engine volume. And yeah, I was caught off guard, but I do manage to get away with it, and I get to use the reserve or the reverse rate of this tank in good detail. So, results of this tank. That's the M31. So, 1 death, which was in this battle, 2 air kills, 6 ground targets, and I believe I unlocked a skin in this vehicle. Yes, there are skins to unlock. There appears to be 10 kills worth, so I'll keep this in the lineup for a bit. But you've got a tricolour desert camouflage, which I actually really like that. And then we have a winter camouflage. Obviously, 10 kills in the reserves, that'll obviously increase as you go up the tech tree. So let's get into the battle and let's have a look. And obviously, I've put it in the replay file. Play it like an IS. If you've never played an IS heavy tank, you'll know that they tend to drive really fast backwards for what they are, about 11 miles an hour, give or take. And that enables you to pretty much put the tank in reverse and just have a lot of fun with it. Now, this map actually caught me off guard. This is a battle map. I don't normally play battle on Frozen Pass. I barely get it. And as you can tell, it's a full 25-minute battle. It was a full slaughter. But both teams were actually pushing really hard and looking to score an advantage over one another. Now, the lineup, obviously, you saw down there, I pretty much had to use the whole lineup. I had to use the M31 first, which obviously I want to get spaded first. And this is the very first game that I used with the armor-piercing high explosive round as well. So, this tank has really high penetration with its armor-piercing high explosive. I mean, it's not super high, like a 45mm, but it's enough to get the job done. And to put it simply, it has really good capability, and obviously the mobility is really good in forward gears and is really good in reverse as well. So obviously I'm not going to show the full battle, otherwise I'll be here all day, but I think if I remember rightly, the contribution in this tank lasts till about 15 minutes. But don't worry, I'm not going to be showing the full 15 minutes of me being in this tank, because otherwise we'll be here all day. So here's where I get caught off guard the first time. I didn't know how quick their Swedish tanks could get up here. And it's at this point where I am completely caught off guard. Because obviously I'm driving up here and I'm thinking, just driving up here, and the next thing you know, Swedish tank pops around the corner and I'm thinking, what the actual fuck? I hit the reverse and he puts a shot and takes out my gunner. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? How's he there that quick? But turns out they get the better side of spawning on here. Johnny McCash and his FM4344, which I have tested that thing in test drive, it's so derpy. But I obviously wanted to provide him support because he's an SPG with about 20-second reload. Obviously, this guy must have had good sound on because he knew exactly where I was coming up from. And, well, he puts a shot and he takes out my radiator, but at this point he makes a mistake. He pushes me. I tried to act all drive-by there, but that didn't work. And, again, the engine took that one. But obviously, I'm looking for a good shot placement. He wounds my gunner, but I put a shot right for his driver's port, which actually is a pretty good spot to shoot on that tank. And that's my first kill. And already we've got enemy tanks pushing our spawn. And I was thinking at this point, should I repair the tank? Because obviously the engine's damaged, the radiator's damaged, and the coax is also a little damaged as well. But it turns out to be about a 40-second repair, so I thought, no, I can't sit here. I must support that SPG as best I can. So that SPG, the FM43, has just blown another tank to Kingdom Come. Honestly, that gun, it's a recoilless gun, by the way, folks, if you haven't seen it. But that is a 150mm recoilless gun, So at this point, an AA, the PVLVV FM42, pops around the corner, but Johnny McCash knew he was coming and blows him to Kingdom Come with that 150mm gun. But here's where you can see, even though the engine is damaged, I noticed this on the M38, not this tank. This tank coped pretty fine. But the M38 doesn't seem to like climbing up hills. It's got a strong first gear, but the driver will want to change it to second gear. And there goes Johnny McCash getting another kill. He was really kicking some ass. But at this point, the enemy team have started to push our spawn. And obviously, I'm thinking of what to do here. So I thought, Johnny McCash should be able to hold this point a little bit. Should I repair the tank? Should I go back and support the team in the spawn? And I decided to do that. And here's where the reverse rate really comes into effect. 11 mph in reverse. It really is spectacular in reverse. I think this is the fastest reserve in reverse, if I remember rightly. Obviously, not including like stuff like the 1.0s, like the AB41. That doesn't really count. As far as I know, this thing is the fastest tank in reverse for reserves. And with it having such troll armor at the rear, it is actually recommended to play this tank in reverse. So at this point, I'm just going to jump us ahead because I am repairing the tank at this point. And I just start reversing the tank up. Now at this point, this teammate decides ramming me to try and take this kill from me is a good idea. He then shoots me in the arse. Obviously, I'm trying to get the gun down. You can see what I mean by the gun depression. But the APHE really does feel much better to use than the other shell. That's for definite. Second kill. And I've got to say this, like, once you get used to the APHE, it really does pack a good punch. I mean, there's a hit right there. That took out his... I think that's the commander in that tank. And you can see the penetration is a bit... meh. It doesn't really, like, go full lol pen on some of these Swedish tanks. It does struggle. And shot placement is really going to be required when we've got this whole Sweden versus Sweden pandemic going on right now. And I tried to get the gun to stabilize here, and I was looking for a shot, but obviously you don't have a shoulder stabilizer on this gun, unlike most 37s at this BR. And I don't think there was room for it. This guy just pumps a full load of coax into me for no reason. I've noticed that in the first 2 games I've had in Swedish tanks, there's a lot of players who don't like they're just being twats, to be brutally honest. But I have to admit, this M31 is definitely the better reserve. The M38 just doesn't feel as good to drive. It doesn't have the reverse gear that this thing has. It doesn't have the armor at the rear that this thing has. And yeah. But with this reverse rate, you can see, even though there's a couple of tanks pushing our spawn right now, I don't even have to turn the tank around to drive it forwards, when I know I can go about half speed in reverse. Most reserve tanks would not be able to do this. I think the only close competitor would be the BT7. Sorry, no, the BT5, and even then. So at this point, this teammate over here, Elliot0915, he's actually going to be pretty helpful. But obviously, I'm looking to get the shot, lining up on the turret, and there we go. I don't know what happened with that kill cam there, because the engine deck immediately popped open the second I put the shot in, and obviously, Gaijin being Gaijin. But that's kill number 4. And we're coming up to the end of my contribution to the battle. Obviously, I'm still going in reverse, because, well, why the hell not? But it's just so much more safer to drive the tank in reverse. And obviously, I'm looking to support the team, obviously, like near the spawn then, because there's a couple of dots near the spawn. But these these J8As are actually pretty dangerous to the M38 from what I've found. The M31 seems to be coping fine from it. But the M38 seems surprisingly vulnerable to the Ikobe's J8A, because obviously I use my Ikobe's in this battle. There's one guy named Yugi1763 who's moaning about the I8 or the J8As flying over. I don't get why, because I mean, was he in the? I can't remember what tank he was in, but oh no, he's in the M31. I don't know why he was moaning, to be brutally honest, and it turns out there was actually an AA just over there, and I didn't see it, because, well, all I saw was just a little dot, and I thought, oh, it's just a fence, don't worry about it. But there's a lot of situations in this tank where I was caught off guard, and even in the first game I was caught off guard. And that was when I had the stock armor piercing round, which is complete crap. I'll say that right now, it's complete crap. But obviously my teammate over here is currently getting attacked, and it isn't Elliot, by the way. I believe it's going to be search for good kill, if it is right. Obviously there's a guy behind here, but I thought he was over here, so I started reversing the tank up. I'm just going to jump us ahead, and this is where this guy's bright idea, which I thought would work, turned out to be a bit of a mistake. But coming up here is a guy who's going to be a bit unhappy in chat. One of Orange fans, guys. Badass Oscar 94. He's not going to be happy in chat about the armor piercing ballistic cap. Don't worry, mate. I fucking hate it. It's a horrible stock grind. But this tank really did show its worth, and obviously at this point we're pushing into the B point. And I thought, okay, if I go in reverse and then I have the most amount of armor in the back, surely I'll at least have a chance of surviving till I get the cap, and this turned out to not be the case. As you can tell by both the replay length and the fact that I said about 15 minutes of contribution to this battle in this tank. But it was a really good fight, and obviously we ended up winning. I brought out the Ikobe's J8A, cleared up the skies a little bit, and then managed to get myself a little bit further. And at this point, this is where my tank's going to bite the dust. This Phantom 2-4 knew exactly where to find me, he knew exactly where to shoot, and I'm obviously panicked trying to drive this tank out of here, but it's too late for me. The teammate there tries to move forward to give me a hand here. The gunner comes back, but not a huge amount of use when your breach explodes, and I didn't know about it. And at this point, my tank is done for. I just didn't know it yet. Teammate there's on fire. The building to our left has fallen. And there we go. But not a bad ending, I would say. I mean, fair enough, I lost a tank, but we won this game. Fair enough, it took another 11 minutes, but even so, it was a good fight, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, whilst this tank has its quirks, it certainly does have its flaws. Obviously, all the Swedish 37s are most likely affected by it. So all I can say is that you're going to want to play the tank very carefully when you've got a stock AP round. You can afford to be a little bit more aggressively with the APHE. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's episode in the M30 or the Stridsvagen M31. And I will get to work on the M38 as well as the little AA that they have, even though it has 45 degrees gun elevation. I'll see you all on the next one.